Hi, good day ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me on my webinar today. So today we're going to be looking at the factory design utilities. Now, if you take a look at the screen here, you can actually take a bit of a look as to what it's actually capable of doing in a broader scheme of sense, and just some interesting visuals. It actually is a very powerful program. Well, to call it a program is actually a bit of a misconception. It's not just a program. It's actually a collection of programs that work together, but I'll get onto that in a bit. So, what can we do with it? Well, quite a bit. As you can see as the video is playing in the background, it can even be hooked into things like the Process Analysis 360. Now, I don't want this to be a death by PowerPoint, so let's quickly move swiftly along. So now we're in an introduction phase. Thank you. My name is Quinn Kennedy. I'm an application engineer for Micrographics. My email on the screen if you require it, quinn@mgfx.co.za. Okay, so our agenda for today, what we're going to be looking at. Well, currently, introduction, where we currently are. What it is, so what is a factory design, why use it, etc. Fast Lego type CAD. I'll get to that in a second. I should actually have a little thingy there. Yes, I know. Bidirectional link with AutoCAD toolsets. Optimize your layout. Visualize the model and any clashes. And then a Q&A. To be honest with you, the most amount of time that we're going to be spending is in this bidirectional link with AutoCAD toolsets. Well, it's not just the AutoCAD, but also I'm going to show you a bit of Navisworks, and that ties into the visualize the model and any clashes. I'm just going to be touching on that. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you do have any queries or anything, please, bottom of your screen, as this is being recorded in TeamViewer, you've got the chat function. Please put any messages in there and I'll get to it as soon as I can. Otherwise, I'll say, hey, we're getting there, just hang on a sec. If you're watching this on YouTube at a recorded, well, after it's been recorded, please just give us a comment below, etc. Or otherwise, even better, send me an email, or as I'll also give the details for our branches. Drop us a branch, well, email whichever branch it is, or info as well, also works. Moving swiftly along. So now we're getting into the nice juicy stuff as to what is plant. Sorry, not plant. I generally work on the plant design. That's why I keep saying plant instead of factory. But the two kind of are, can be interlinked in various ways. Okay, so without further ado, what it is. So what is factory? So factory, yes, it generally is what it clips into Inventor. It's one of the add-ons for Inventor, per se, and that's what most people always think about. But what it does is it allows us to then plan our factories out. We can then not only figure out like how things are going to be lying, but we can see if there's going to be any clashes, what is actually the most efficient routings for equipment, and we can get a general good overlay. And a lot of people can understand a 3D image as well, should I say a 3D model as well, a lot better than they can a 2D floor plan. Not to mention that added sense of depth to it can really help get your points across. These are just scraping the tops as to what it can. There's actually many other things as to why we'd rather use it and what it is about, but that's what we're going to be going over this today. So when I was saying that it's not just a clip-on for just Inventor as people imagine, as you can see over here in the bottom right, it can also work with architecture, so part of the AutoCAD toolsets, which is architecture, mechanical, and MEP. So if you're used to any of them, you've already got a good kind of functionality. And what it does is, I'll show you later on, is it adds in a new tab, a new kind of interface into our AutoCAD, and it allows us to work within it in a native AutoCAD environment. Meaning that what I'll get into a little sec was that we can have our AutoCAD users and we can have our Inventor users, and they can actually work together on the same floor plan and have it automatically update. But we'll get into that in a little bit later. And then also with Navisworks Manage. which we can use for timelining, we can use it for clash detection, we can use it for a few things. In this, I'm just going to give you a basic idea as to what we can do with the clash detection. Okay, so first, without further ado, we're going to be looking at our fast Lego CAD type modeling, which I like to call it that. It's not exactly an official term. So what do I mean by this? In that if I've got my Inventor open, now if I was wanting to draw something, I can go and I can say, okay, cool, let me come over here, let me actually use my mouse, and I can say, oh, okay, well, I want to add in some stuff. Now what's really interesting is that in the factory design utilities, we've actually got an asset browser, and we've got an entire range of assets. At the moment, I'm actually in my library assets. Let me go to system assets, and let's actually add in maybe a conveyor. So conveyors, and then we can look at putting in so I've resized it so it's a little bit out of size, but okay, let's just put in a roller conveyor. So I'm going to put in a roller conveyor, and I'm going to go, okay, cool, let's put in just a one straight line. I'm going to just click and drag, and you'll see how easy this is. I click, drag, and drop, and then as I'm moving it around, I just drop the asset straight in. Now this is where this kind of modular type design, which I jokingly call like Lego, comes in, is that when we move our sections towards each other, you'll notice they want to interface. So this kind of modular type designing that we do here is literally just clip and play, which can be very helpful even on things like corners, etc. Oh, you might be wondering, like, oh, the other corner, how would I get it to flip around? It's actually very simple. You'll notice those little balls in the end. If I move the other ball to the end, you'll notice it mirrors and it flips to the other side. So it's actually very useful. I'm going to quickly just step that back a little bit. And let's see, I'm going to actually also later on, let me put another one in over here. Oops, sorry, not dragging. And actually, you know what? It's actually really good. I'm just going to put it right there. So I'm just going to keep it there. Just keep that in mind for just now. There's method to my madness. I just wanted to drag it in so that we had a little bit of a clash. And that would make sense in a bit. Okay, so now this is basically like how our Lego CAD type systems work, is that we can design these assets, plunk them in, and these assets are quite intelligent actually. If I go into it and I go into its factory properties, so it's just another area of here, you'll normally find these browsers are free floating in the beginning. So they'll probably be quite messy all over your screen and floating on your screen like that. Just a pro tip, grab the little tab and just drag them into your browsers on the left here, and you can just stack them all together and then just quickly flip between them. That may make your life a bit easier. I always do it this way myself. So in here, what's also pretty interesting is that if I click on one of my original assets over here, and now I'm looking in its properties on the left, watch this. I can say, okay, width, maybe not 28, let's make this 45, enter. Now remember, I only modified the first asset. Oops. Decided to jump there. It modified the first asset, and then it affected all the way down the line. So that was actually a very nice way that it basically updates all the assets all the way down the line. It will try and maintain those links and any shared aspects, such as, for instance, in a conveyor, the width. Obviously, you're not going to have a really small conveyor all of a sudden resizing and then having no transition between the two. I mean, if you had some form of adapter, I could understand. But in this case, no, it would automatically resize itself. So they're actually very intelligent, the way that they react towards one another. Just going to delete that end part off. So it's worth something of note. Now, something that's also quite cool is when we're working in our 2D side. So this is our 2D layout of our current plants. Well, should I say not plants, but our factory layout that we've got here. And what's interesting here is you'll notice, so the thing that we were working in there was this new cell. And we can actually jump between our Inventor, AutoCAD, and Navisworks by using our tools at the top here. This open in AutoCAD, open in Navisworks. It's actually very powerful. And what do I mean by that is if I were to go and click open in AutoCAD, yes, it's always going to ask you to save. Now, always recommending to save because then it will update correctly. Now, watch what it does. You'll notice that in the middle, I jumped back there. Give me a sec. Just jumping back. You notice now all of a sudden it's populated these two conveyors. Well, it's actually technically 3 conveyors. Then I've also got this thing down here in the center. Now, what this was actually is this is a XREF view in here. So I've actually just XREF this whole thing in over here to make my life a bit easier to work with. But when I hit save over here, and let me close this view, should ask me to update. Just going to reload the XREFs. You'll notice it's now XREFed in there. Now, I'm going to show you what's really cool about this. I'm going to jump back to, I'm just going to close my external reference manager. I'm going to click open in Inventor. Now, I've already prepped this thing. If you've not prepped it beforehand, this thing can take quite a while for it to load up and get all the bits and pieces in line. Active document is not saved. Would you like to save it now? I can click yes. Oops. It's not responding at the moment. So something funny is going on in the background here. Let me update my document. You'll notice now all of a sudden the document, my conveyors have now actually also got the 2D layout at the bottom. This is because what it's done is it's looked into the background of AutoCAD and it said, oh wait, you know, there's stuff there. Which is pretty cool because it's now looking backwards and forwards. Jumping away from Inventor though, give me a sec. I'm just going to quickly close this window. And there we go. It's open on this side. So this is a look at our entire plant. Well, not plant, sorry, like I said, factory. Forgive me for saying that. Okay, so I've already pre-populated this because what this does is it creates a kind of a link between everything, and it can take a very long time to sometimes populate this whole factory for the first time. So what I've done is I've already gone, but what will normally happen if I jump back here to my AutoCAD is that it will then give you this updating layout message, and this can take quite a while. The last time I did it, it took about 10-15 minutes to get everything together, but there is quite a lot of information in the back end that has been put into here. So talking about that, just going to roll back a little bit and let's go back to this AutoCAD. Now what's pretty cool, or should I say, let me go back over here, go back to AutoCAD. Guys, going to reopen this, open XREF. Now let's say for an instance you've noticed these kind of 2D drop-offs that is done off the top there, these projected views. This is something that I really like about the way that this whole system operates, in that if I were to open this in Inventor, now you'll see the method of my madness right now. If I open this in Inventor and I wanted to add a brand new factory asset in, so in other words, I did not have this pre-existing. Now, all I have to do is go, okay, cool, well, let me firstly place in a part. So, assembly, let me place in a part, and I've already got a part ready to go. This is just a shrink wrapped piece of equipment that I've got, and I'm going to, which way do we need to rotate it? Sorry, it's coming a little bit on the skew side because it's drawn in another package, which is really cool because it just shows you that there's also this nice ability to bring in different packages, but that's more of an Inventor feature, to be honest. So I'm just going to dump that right there. So now I've got this piece of equipment. May want to constrain it to the floor as well quickly. Don't need to do it, but it's probably a better idea to do it. Give me one moment. Donk. Okay, cool. I just wanted to constrain to the floor so I could quite easily move it into position. Now, here's where it's quite interesting. So if I were to click on one of these conveyor sections, you'll notice that it's going and it's saying the factory properties, etc. But if I were to just click on a normal item, so this is just a normal drawing. There's no fancy, normal model. There's no fancy things about it. No intelligence. If I go into my factory, I can say convert asset. And it's looking inside. You notice I haven't even selected the drawing. Sorry, not the drawing, the model. But I can force it to select, and I can say, okay, cool, I'm going to keep everything as default. You can change the floor axes, and that you notice how it flipped it around when I first imported it. But I'm not interested in adding too much detail. You can go and add the properties as well as you want. For instance, you notice that, for instance, the conveyor don't only have size, but I could add in other things, for instance. So like descriptors, process, how much is going through it at any time. I'll mention this a little bit later. And then any other customizable fields. I'm just brushing over a lot of this stuff. I'm going to go convert. And here's where the magic happens. And the reason why I'm explaining this now, and why I said just, my matters might make sense in a bit, is because it doesn't only just create it for the inventor side. What this will do is once we've hit save and we open it in AutoCAD again, it will also create my 2D drop-off at the bottom with its assets. It's taking a little bit of time to get it in. It's taking a little bit longer than usual. I think it's because I'm also currently running several different packages at once. I do have AutoCAD, Mechanical, Navisworks, and Inventor open at the same time. So just, please bear with me for a moment. Okay, I think it's done. For some reason it keeps swapping back to my AutoCAD. I think it's something to do with my projection at the moment. Okay, so now once we're happy, we can hit save. Okay. I always recommend saving before doing anything, really. Be paranoid, it'll help you in life, especially when it comes to CAD. But you notice now that I've got the object selected, in my factory properties, I have now got some information. So it's now an actual factory asset. Now that it's saved, I can go open an AutoCAD again. It's going to update. So one of the key factors in this, just be patient, let it do its thing. And how is that? You notice I didn't specify a 2D drop-off or anything. It automatically did that. And if I select it, I can go into my properties. And you can see it's a block reference and a whole bunch of information in there. Okay, so enough of that, with what I'm saying over here. I've just shown you how you can quickly convert stuff and bring them around. But if you've already got stuff already built into your library, for instance my library over here, we can actually also take advantage of this drag and drop system. Now I've shown you placing stuff in the inventor side, which literally is just dropping in there, well, that part, and then also these conveyors. But AutoCAD is actually even easier, because all we have to do is say, oh, okay, well, let's say I'm going to take this item and drop down over here. We can then give it its angle. We can say how many we want. We can even put in some, let's say, some welding machines. Sorry, I haven't exited my command yet. Oh, and if we're not happy with its position, we can just use our normal AutoCAD move commands. And then I can also just copy it multiple times. So this actually becomes a very quick and easy way of moving our assets around however we require them. And watch this. Remember I just showed you how this automatically builds, and that when we put our conveyors in, it automatically dropped our 2D views? Well, this is where it also gets quite cool, because of this bidirectional link. When I open it in Inventor now, check, watch, it also puts in my 2D view at the bottom. Like I said, it keeps jumping back there. But it also put our other stuff in, such as these other clamps, etc. Interesting thing, if you do have something that's got multiple variants that you've also got, I'm not going to go too deep into the variants, but if you do have multiple variants of an asset, you can actually select it to be the multiple one, and then it automatically puts it in. And when we save it, and jump back to AutoCAD, if, by the way, you've noticed that it hasn't updated on one of the sides, like for instance, you notice it didn't update this side, you may have been moving a little bit too fast. I've noticed that sometimes if you move too fast and you're jumping between the programs too fast, it sometimes doesn't update. But I mean, that's generally easy enough. Just open it back in Inventor again. I normally just use this open in AutoCAD, open in Inventor to jump, because it just it prevents a few issues from occurring. Just going to quickly jump to this. Moral of the story, just slow down to a pace if you're going to be doing some strange modifications. Save the work, and then move around. You probably don't need to save as much as I do. Like I said, I'm just paranoid. For some reason that one's not wanting to update. What I could do is, excuse me, yeah, now it's not wanting to move at all. Just going to move this one back, roughly to where it was. Cool, and I'm going to save. Open. And it's opening there. But yeah, that's probably because I'm messing around too much. Remember, this is for demonstration. I have just plunked in a lot of information, a lot of stuff. But you can see this bidirectional link that I've been talking about, that the one talks to the other, and you can push this information backwards and forwards quite easily. Now, not only that, but if I jump back to my AutoCAD again, I'm just going to jump back here, and I can also do things like add, one of the things I also like is if we want to convert asset chains. So let's say, sorry, give me one moment here. Why is this? I don't have it over there at the moment. I just want to quickly jump to the correct asset. You see it's actually added in this as a user asset. Factory assets. Let's jump to system assets. If you, by the way, if you're not too sure, you can't figure out exactly where something is hiding, because maybe like me and you are a little bit on the forgetful side sometimes, what you can do is you can actually go and search for something in the assets. Safety fences for assets. There we go. I'm just going to click on that one and click search. Haha. So I can select that for an instance. Or I can select that one and actually draw a line, enter. And now what this one will do is populate. Now what I was going to do is try and convert the assets to an asset chain. Okay, it's actually done that one. Cool. Oh, didn't do the other one, but you get what I mean over there. Now, the one thing I just wanted to mention, and the reason why I'm doing the asset chain, is sometimes, although it's really good at doing what it does, you'll notice it's actually done this, and if I were to save it and jump back to my inventor, this is the main thing I just wanted to show you here. It's just something you have to be aware of. It's really good at doing a lot of this stuff, but sometimes in things like chains and that, it will kind of break it into two sections. That's why it's in red. So if you do see this, just try go back, roll back a little bit, maybe stretch it out a little bit longer. And what it will do is it will try and kind of fix this and stop that from happening. It's not a major chain smash, but it can look a little bit not great for people. Okay, I'm just going to quickly save this, and voila. Okay, so another thing that I just want to talk about as well is this optimizing your layout. So optimizing this layout is pretty cool. Whoops. Now, optimizing the layout is pretty cool because what we can do also with our factory, which a lot of people don't realize, is that we can actually add in interesting little bits and pieces. For instance, if I were to go and let's say I'm going to open the... I'm just going to jump to my one layout that I've already got prepped. This is just a different layout, so just give it a sec, sorry, it just needs to load up. As you can see, this is a lot of backwards and forwards with information. But like I said, it is taking a little bit longer than usual because of all the load on the system. This is why you generally do want to get something a little bit more decent. Just remember, I do have multiple different programs open. That is not the normal way of working. It's just complaining about my annotation scale, etc. That's not the right one. For some reason, it's opened a different one now. Doesn't really matter, actually. You know what? I'm just going to do this on a smaller scale then. And what I'm going to do is just show you how this works. So the way that this basically would work is that it would be kind of a chain of stuff. For instance, you would have an item that goes through your factory, obviously because you're manufacturing something. So if you had multiple different sections of objects as was going through, firstly you have to define what the station is. So we're going to say, okay, this is the station. And we're going to say, okay, well, where's the connector for the station? Where's it going to be taking this from? So I'm just going to be roughly putting this stuff down, so it may give some strange numbers out at the end, but just bear with me. So all I'm saying is that this is a station that is coming from, so this conveyor. Then from there, it goes, and I'm going to say, okay, cool. I'm going to say there's another station, and that is this one over here. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to say that one. I'm going to say station is this one over here. And I'm going to try and get it in the middle. Over there. So now what it's doing is I've got one station, two station. I'm going to then say, okay, this is the third station. I'm just roughly going to put it down over there. So all I've been doing here is just defining the different stations as we're going through. You can modify the properties, obviously, of each station, but I'm just going to explain this in the broader sense of scheme, or broader scheme. After our station, I'm going to define a product. So product, by the way, if you go into your material flow browser, it may just be floating in your screen, which is not wanting to dock now. There we go. Not grabbing the spine. Maybe just floating in the screen, like normally for AutoCAD, what I recommend is just right clicking, say anchor right or anchor left, whatever your preference. I prefer doing it this way around. And then in my product though, I'm going to say, I've also got an auto hide. my product, I'm going to leave it as product 1. I'm being very imaginative now, I know. Cool. And then I'm going to say, okay, my routing. Now, routing, this is where people get a little bit confused. And the reason why we define products first is because you'll see it ask for selecting a product from the browser. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to select product 1. I'm going to say, okay, select a start station. So I'm going to go from that station. Now watch what happens when I click the next station. You'll notice if I hover over it, it says station 2 to that station. Obviously, you want to give these things proper names. Station 3 and station 4. Once you're done, you can hit enter. Now, it doesn't look like it's done anything. But check, watch this. When I click this transportation, you can actually see some information about you. So, 14 minutes, 23, 14, 23, 25. Now, if you don't like, by the way that this is displaying or what it's displaying, you do have some options as to what it's currently displaying. So part quantity and distance, or transport costs if you've actually put that in there. Total costs, and then also you can do your indicators or even units. Like that was imperial, so like 245 meters of travel. Obviously this is a little bit out because of scanning, etc. So it's pretty cool what you can actually do and what you can define there. And by the way, all of these things are defined in the actual station properties. Sorry, I've got a little bit of lag going on here. Okay. Let's go to the asset browsers. Oh, you know why? It's because I've closed it because I went properties again. Factory properties. Thank you. That's the little screen I was looking for. When I went I already had it open. So when I went properties again, it obviously closed it. Okay, so normally it'll be a floating screen. Probably maybe on AutoCAD, maybe not on AutoCAD. I normally dock it to the right. So with the factory properties, what you can now do is you can now tell it, okay, whatever its rate is, etc. Now watch the time and everything. So if I were to say uptime percentage maybe 95, energy consumption is also 5, enter, etc. And what it will do is it will also modify this. I don't have this thing set up 100%, so we may see some strange numbers pop up. There we are. Okay, so I've just modified a few things. So you notice numbers did change here, but I'm not really paying attention as to what is actually changing there. But in real life, you would, of course, put the real numbers in. General consensus, garbage in, garbage out scenario. I'm just putting in garbage information is coming out of it. But you get the idea as to what I'm trying to say. Now, one of the real cool things about this, though, is that once we've done this, you can also tell it in your material flow. You can import the data, export the data into XML files, but one really cool one is you can generate a report. I'm just going to generate a report, save it straight out. And then what this does is it gives you a complete breakdown. So 863 minutes, obviously, like I said, I'm just putting in weird stuff. Which would then, this would all be factored in via the time. So of course, the time that it takes to transfer between the item, between the machines, the machine run time, that type of stuff. Kilowatt hours, all this stuff is dependent on basically all of the settings that you've got inside your parts. So yeah. So literally everything that you've got basically in here is going to determine or change the time values. And that then will change the values, of course, in your report. But this is quite nice that it even gives you nice little graphs and everything that you can hand in. It just takes a little bit of that time and effort away and the guesswork away from it. And then you can also see any pain points, etc. or where you can maybe utilize the machines better, maybe look at another machine for cost savings, energy consumption, etc. So that was just a quick idea as to what you can do with it, and a little bit about the actual power of being able to just drop this into from Inventor to AutoCAD, and even doing some backwards and forwards there. Just a quick thing. Watch when we can then hop this back to Inventor again. I'm just going to save. Open an Inventor. Let it open. And all of these things would be updated and repopulated. Now, here's a pretty cool one. Is that after you've done this, or you're just wanting to check, etc., another good idea to do is to always make sure that you don't have any clashes or any other things. So you can also open in Navisworks. Yes, always save. Yes, thank you. Now, this is another thing. Just remember, it is pulling this data through, and basically it's linking all these assets together. So it can take a bit of time to update this. Normally it's best to just let it update. Navisworks can get a bit twitchy if you start clicking around too much. You'll notice, there we go, there it was updating, and it's part of the reason why I'm not doing the entire factory floor here, because it can take quite a while. There we go, you can see it's jumping around, it's doing its thing. It can take quite a while to do this the first time. Just allow it to populate, allow it to do its thing, and now you've got a nice Navisworks model. Very powerful, because not only can you use this for visualization, showing people things. Anybody who's used Navisworks before probably understands the power of what you can do with this now, for presentation, and then also things like Clash Detective. Now, I'm just doing a quick Clash Detective here. I'm just going to go in and say, okay, oh yeah, add a test. I'm just going to do a very basic thing here. Let's go properties, and say that we're just going to use, let's do the factory asset instances. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to run a test between the two, and then it can find any information or any issues between the different models. So you can see over here, I have got this base, the robot base, that's clashing. I've got the conveyor. Remember, I set this up right in the beginning. I just wanted to make sure that I had something that was going to clash, just to give us a positive, and that's the reason why I did that. And then we've got another one over there. That's just basically the same conveyor that was clashing. So those two are actually meant to clash. That one was just a byproduct of me dragging things around. Remember when the table resized. So it is very powerful. Not only that, but you can also do your timelining. You can do basically anything you would normally do in Navisworks. And this is one of the beauties about it. So as you can see, it's pretty freeform between the different programs, and they work really nicely together. How you can jump backwards and forwards, create your different assets, etc. Also, if you did want to, you can use the whole process model, etc. I'm not going to launch that right now, as yeah, the internet may have an issue. I've been having issues with this, particularly with presenting, but don't worry about it. Normally it'll be perfectly fine. Now, that basically brings me to kind of finishing off over here on the ends as to what I've been getting at. Now, some of the things that you may encounter, or just little like pro tips really, is things like what I've been saying is try to split up sections into these little subcomponents. So create your XREFs. Make sure that you're managing them correctly, and it's going to make your life a lot easier. If you XREF these things together and you just kind of break it up as much as possible, you're going to make your life a lot easier. You're not going to have to worry about loading up the huge sections every time. And if you're wanting to work on smaller sections of an Inventor, it's going to make your life easier. Also for collaboration, if you've got it split up, get up around multiple sections, more people can work with it at once. So many hands make light work in this case. There we go. It's not wanting to move. Maybe I should just use my 3D mouse. That'll maybe make my life easier. Okay. So another thing, like I said, another pro tip that I've encountered with using this, try and use your Open in AutoCAD, Open in Inventor if you're in Inventor. Use your tabs over here. It's going to make your life a lot faster and easier, and it's going to update and be more controllable. Sometimes it doesn't like it when you're moving in between. If you're just basically opening between like this, it should be fine. I've only encountered it a handful of times, but the problem is when it has created an issue, it just drove me a little bit insane trying to fix those specific issues. Okay, otherwise, you can also another interesting thing, by the way, is you can also use Autodesk Recap to put in a as-is captured state, basically a scanned file of your factory already there, and then model around it. It will make kind of doing as-is jobs a lot easier if you've got the 3D scan to just work off. What this means is that you can also have your upgrades running at the same time as your factory is busy running. Maybe not the best idea in some cases, it may be a bit of a hazard, but it is possible, and that you can then time your downtime with it as well. But these are things just to give you an idea. There is a lot more to this. I've basically given you some of my highlights that I like of factory and some things you can do with it, especially this interlinking between Inventor, AutoCAD, and Navisworks. To me, that's one of the most powerful features of it, and also this ability to analyze the process, analyze how things are moving around the plant, and get a good idea as to how long things should be taking, maybe how long versus they are taking. Well, that is basically everything that I've got for you today. So, do I have any queries, questions? Let me just quickly bring up my thing over there. Okay. Basically, if you've got any queries, questions, or anything, please just quickly check them into chat right now, and I can maybe give you some answers, ideas, tips. Okay, so far chat is quite quiet. Okay, well, I'll just finish off now. If I see anything in chat, I'll respond. Otherwise, if you want, you can give myself an email. My email's all the way there in the beginning. Oops, there goes my. Okay, there's my email. So it's Quinn Kennedy, application engineer at Micrographics Durban. If you do require anything from one of our other branches. Wow, my system is really not happy with me today. If you require anything from any of our other branches, please take a look. I've got so Johannesburg, Cape Town, PE, and Durban on the screen. I'm from the Durban branch. Drop us a mail, give us a shout. We're always more than willing to assist anybody. If you're watching this on YouTube, please give it a thumbs up, like it, say subscribe. Thank you. Otherwise, it's been great having you guys. I hope you've got a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you. Have a good one. Cheerio.